I'm going to announce this right away so I don't forget at the end. One of my favorite studios is Invisible Bee Yoga in South Minneapolis. And I spoke with the owner, and I have a schedule and a free yoga class card for everyone here.
Cool.
So in case I forget to announce it at the end, please take one of each. Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia, and I'm really excited to be here. I have lived with type 1 diabetes for 27 years. I was diagnosed at age 11, and no, I was not diagnosed as a baby. I get that a lot, like, well, you are not even 27 years old. I'm young at heart. I guess what I first just want to ask a few questions. I want to know how many of you have practiced yoga before? Okay, well, I'm talking to a well-experienced audience.
It's super hard. Yoga's hard, man.
And what about meditation or mindfulness? Awesome. Okay. And for those of you maybe not as experienced with yoga, what words pop into your mind when you think about yoga?
I just have to tell you my yoga experience. Everybody told me I needed yoga. So I went to a class at Lifetime, and I couldn't get the poses, and halfway through the class, the instructor came over to me and she said, you know, Al, you really should get some lessons before you come to the class. And that was the last time I did yoga, so I had half of a lesson.
Isn't that why you're there? Wow. You'll have to try Cynthia's free class coupon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They won't let me finish that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in case I forget to say this, if anyone would like to go to a yoga class with a friend, I'm happy to give you my cell if you want to text me. I'm happy to go with you and just be that person here that you know or are familiar with. I know a few of you, Doug left. Oh, there he is. Sid and maybe Al, so I've heard from a few of you. Well, yoga is the physical, mental, and spiritual practice or disciplines which originated in ancient India with a view to attain a state of permanent peace of mind in order to experience one's true self. Many think that yoga actually comes from religion, and if you're a Christian, you can't practice it. It's actually not true. It was not formed in any kind of religion. So by practicing these poses, you're not breaking any rules. Of course, certain religions don't feel that way, but I've been practicing outdoors in Linden Hills at an outdoor yoga class last summer, and this guy comes and just starts shouting at our teacher, like, "You're evil!" And yeah, you hear everything. But for those of you that haven't practiced yoga, I was like you for most of my life. I never practiced yoga. I was not a flexible person. I had absolutely no balance, so bad that even in high school, standing on skis, like for cross-country skiing, I would fall down, like that bad. And I thought yoga was for people not like me. And then sometime in my 20s, I actually signed up for a series of classes, but I never went. It was the middle of winter. I would get home from work exhausted. It was freezing cold outside. I would just think, well, I'm just going to eat dinner, and not go. And I never made it. And I felt really guilty, and that was the closest I ever got to yoga. Then, in December of 2007, I married James, who's seated over there taking a video of this. And little did I know I was marrying into a yoga-loving family, or rather, a mother-in-law who loved yoga. So that didn't mean much to me when I walked down the aisle, but Christmas was just a few short weeks later, and I opened up a gift certificate, and it was for a free introductory yoga class. And James got one too, and so did James' dad. And that was my first experience actually with yoga. I was a little embarrassed. James heard my practice run a couple nights ago. He knows where this is going next. I was a little embarrassed as we left, and he, pulled out his 1980s black sweatpants with the super tight elastic at the bottom. I was like, I can't believe I'm going into the studio with this guy. Oh my gosh. Not that my clothes are much better. I didn't have fancy yoga clothes or anything. But we showed up at this studio, and boy, did I feel out of place. A fancy little studio in Edina. You get there, and the teacher is exactly like what you see in the magazines, toothpick skinny, gorgeous, super calm. And I was just like, oh geez, but you know, over the next few hours, she talked about yoga, and we got to do some postures, and I thought, well, this is okay. I want to do this before. Maybe this is a good time for me to try. And I've always liked being active, but was more like Christine. I hate the cold and I hate the winter, so I would walk outdoors in the summer and play tennis. But come winter, I wouldn't do anything. So that class did it for me, and within a few days, I did a Google search, for a yoga studio in my area. And the closest one I found was in St. Louis Park, and it's called the Yoga Center of Minneapolis. I found 2 introductory classes and signed up. I think they were Tuesday and Thursday nights, and they were 8 weeks each. And that was when I first learned, what even the names of these postures were that you see, and I learned about Ujjayi breath, and it was good. My health instantly blossomed. I had more energy, my blood sugars were balancing, I felt calmer. I remember calling my mom once after class, and I said, Mom, I haven't felt this good in years. And she was just so excited for me, and it was an exciting moment. Like, here was this secret gift I found, and well, why hadn't I tried it before? So, after those classes ended, I started going 2 or 3 times a week to the Yoga Center of Minneapolis, and I tried a bunch of different teachers. I tried a bunch of different styles. There are so many different kinds of yoga, and this is later in the talk, but maybe due to Elle's comment, I'll bring this up. A gym like LA Fitness or YMCA is definitely a place you can practice yoga, but that's just one kind, and the yoga offered at a gym is often very fitness oriented, so very aerobic, because that's kind of the people who go to gyms. So please don't go to the free class if you're a member at the Y and say I don't like yoga, because that's just one kind. The kinds of yoga are as far ranging as Ashtanga, Yin, Yoga Nidra, Restorative, Hatha, Vinyasa, Vinyasa Flow, Bikram, Slow Flow. There's just so many different kinds of classes. And some people like fast yoga with music. That would be like a level 3, so there are different levels. So if you're starting out after the beginner classes, you can take level 1, for instance. And you may not ever like level 3. Like, I went to a level 3 that was fast and rock music, and it was not a good fit for me. And yet, she was a super popular teacher, but just for me, I was like, that was not a good fit. And now, the kind of yoga that I have fallen in love with is something called slow flow, and it starts with meditation, and then it's exactly that. It's very slow, it's very mindful. You pause in poses, and I can actually feel my chakra, which is your energy center, balance and open. Go ahead.
Is that more because when you first was going to ask, what do you think of yoga? And I think stress reliever.
Definitely.
I don't know. If somebody said, what do you think of yoga class? I'd think, okay, I'm going to go there because it's going to relieve my stress. So is that what that slow meditation one is? Is more a stress reliever, or is it a stress reliever with a workout, or?
I think,
how do you know?
Yeah, I think as Sarah said a lot, with diabetes, like, it's so different, our blood sugars, and it's the same thing as yoga. Where Quinn might love, like, this super fast class, or like hot yoga where it's 112 degrees and, you're sweating and you're completely wet. That's just my personality. I actually have a very slow way of being. I've actually blogged about it before. My mom has said I'm slower than molasses in January. Everything I like to do is super slow. Ask my husband. He's a very patient man. So I think, it really just is, it resonates with who I am, and it feels right to me. When I go to a class, like at a gym, and it's like, I am like starting to feel the pose, and I feel my body grounding, and we're already moving to the next posture. For me, that just doesn't work. It's not calm, it doesn't balance, but for many people, that does work and they love it. Does that answer your question? So let's see here. So in terms of diabetes, what you might notice is more stable blood sugars with not many highs, as many highs or lows, and as your mood and nervous system become calm, so do your blood sugars. My very favorite yoga class is on Sunday mornings, and with that class, I've had good blood sugars for 3 or 4 days. I mean, they stay that stable because it is the perfect slow flow class, and it is so balancing. And when I miss that class, notice my blood sugars are chaotic, you know, really crazy. So, you know, the effect on diabetes is absolutely amazing. Also, we know diabetes can be hard on us emotionally. It's really hard to live with type 1 diabetes. We have a lot of stress with it, we can have anxiety, and we can actually even feel down. So whether we live with clinical anxiety or clinical depression, yoga helps with all that. It can help lift your mood, it can help calm you, and with clinical diagnoses, people have actually even been able to reduce medications because it's that therapeutic. And briefly, there are 2 parts of the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. How most of us are in daily life is in the sympathetic nervous system, and that's the fight or flight. So our lives have become so busy where we're running from one thing to the next. And the benefit of yoga is it helps move your body into the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's rest and digest, and it's there that you're gonna have less of the stress hormones going, and when you have more stress, I learned this today actually, more glucagon is released. So when you're in this parasympathetic nervous system state, less cortisol is being released, less glucagon in response to the stress. And you know, your diabetes, I mean, this is really awesome stuff. And let's see here. So, you know, I did some research in preparation for this because I didn't want to just share my story, but because yoga is so phenomenal, really wanted to give you guys some further background than just what I have to share. And I found, you know, specifically today in some research about how yoga helps diabetes. And some of this I mentioned, but I think I'll, you know, skim over this. Regular yoga practice can help reduce the level of sugar in the blood, along with lowering blood pressure, keeping your weight in check, reducing the severity of symptoms, and slowing the rate of the progression. Of course, some of that's, you know, type 2 related, but it also lessens the possibility of further complications. And this is, if you want to read, I can read the part about glucagon. Stress is one of the major reasons for diabetes, or in our case, in type 1, you know, what we deal with just living with it in the rest of our life. It increases the secretion of glucagon, which is a hormone responsible for increasing blood glucose levels in the body. The consistent practice of yoga, which would be the movement and the breath work, and a few minutes of meditation can help reduce stress in the mind and protect the body from its adverse effects. And this reduces the amount of glucagon and improves the action of the insulin. And then just, you know, a few more benefits that I've had. I was not a flexible person at all, and like I said, no balance. Well, one of the first like real life practical things with me is like we have the saran wrap and tinfoil on the top shelf, and I was like, whoa! Like, you know, just being able to even grab that, it's like practical stuff. And, you know, balance, like I could show you a pretty mean tree pose right now, you know, which is just going like this with my shoes is kind of hard to do, but it's amazing. And that's one really exciting thing about yoga is there's just so much progression, and, you know, it's a lifetime activity, and there's so much growth. Like, you know, some of you, I can't do curl right now, but, you know, I've done a tripod headstand, and you're able to really work into some pretty remarkable things that, you know, coming from someone who had no balance and no flexibility and wasn't in dance, or, you know, like tried doing a routine senior year of high school and you couldn't remember anything, you know, I'm kind of, yeah, like in the background trying to go with these moves. So, you know, the calming effect, like I notice when I don't practice, like I'm just more short-tempered with my husband and at home, you know, and I'll be like, I need to get back to my yoga. I haven't been since last week. Just things affect me more. Also, something really remarkable, you know, as your energy centers are open and you're grounded, I get very creative. Like, I can't tell you how much writing I've done after I leave a yoga class, sometimes in my driveway, punching into my phone because I feel so clear. Better rest, and also yoga's been called moving meditation. So where some people really like meditation, you know, sitting on a cushion, Mari here is really into meditation. Yoga, you know, I've always liked, because I do like being active, so that's really awesome. And also it's very anti-aging. James' mom is in her 60s and actually practices 3 to 4 times a week. Like, I mean, an Ashtanga practice, which is it was a practice started for 13-year-old boys. Like, it is so rigorous. So that's just, you know, something kind of exciting and fun. And there's also, you know, one thing I do want to tell you that's really important is this. I think 3 or 4 summers ago, I did I don't know if it was 8 or 12 weeks, a mindfulness meditation course. And one thing the teacher told us that really applies to the yoga practice is it's very normal to do this training, and then you love it, and you're like, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna change my life and my diabetes, and you leave it for 4 months. And you beat yourself up like, what am I doing? You know, she said this is completely normal for everyone. So I want to tell you that too. If you go to yoga and you love it, it is so normal to, you know, leave your practice. Like, I don't really know what that always is about, why we leave a good thing. But be gentle with yourself and allow yourself to go back to your practice, because it really is amazing and the benefits are so great. And here's the part where I have, if you're a member of a gym, I covered that. And, you know, what I do want to say is, you know, you don't need to be a dancer or anything like that. You don't need to have the right clothes. I mean, if you try different studios, you might find that some are more cliquey and everyone, you know, has them. But find out what you're comfortable with. Maybe it'll be a new pastime to go get, you know, cute yoga clothes or something. You know, just be you. One of the greatest benefits of yoga is it can, well, I guess like running too, but is it can be done anywhere. Like, for some reason, when I'm on vacation is when it's really easy for me to implement my home practice. And I guess, well, we were in Florida in March, and we had a apartment or hotel overlooking the ocean, but it's really calming, you know, to practice when the ocean waves are washing in. And that's the other thing about yoga, where with cardio, you might need, well, for me, like, I need to walk 30 minutes before I notice my blood sugar starting to dip on my continuous glucose meter. With yoga, I actually did 5 minutes. I had 20 minutes to walk on the treadmill, 5 minutes to do yoga, and then I had to shower and get here. I had 3 chakras open, which I know because I actually see colors when my eyes are closed, and it's that balancing. So even if you just have a couple minutes, you know, it can be really profound and help you feel grounded and calm. So it's pretty amazing. And I do recommend starting with the beginner classes. You know, I get asked, people in the diabetes online community come to me with questions about yoga quite often. How do I start yoga? What do I do? Can I just get a video? My personal experience was starting with beginner classes, and that is what I would recommend, because there are the postures, you can hurt yourself. I mean, if you're like really twisting, and hopefully you wouldn't do that, but I think it's good to get that base foundation at a yoga studio and go through a beginner's class and then experiment from there. And maybe I should close, but I did find this article written by a medical doctor about 38 ways yoga keeps you fit, but it is chock full of research. And you know, Emily's like, please cover how the yoga affects you, how it affects your diabetes. One really exciting thing reading this is just how much it affects us in the long term. And these were some things that I didn't know that I learned in preparation for this. So it increases our circulation in our hands and our feet. It can reduce our risk of stroke, lower blood pressure, lower LDL cholesterol, increase HDL cholesterol, you know, just so many things. So I hope you'll consider it, those of you that haven't, and thanks for letting me share. Does anyone have questions? Yay. Allison?
You don't get away with that easy. I have, you know, because we talked about in all the other presentations, kind of like how to manage blood sugar with like basal rate changes and things like that. So what do you do specifically to, I mean, how does yoga affect your blood sugar, if it does at all, like directly? And if it does, what do you do to kind of compensate for that?
Great question. So Elson's asking what I do as far as diabetes and insulin and that kind of thing. Overall, I like to play tennis, cycle, and walk are kind of how I stay active. With all of those, how I work is I eat before I exercise, and that also is with yoga. Last May, 11 months ago, I went off the pump, and I'm on shots now, but this is a continuous glucose meter I wear, and I'm doing that to heal tissue. So it's different than, and I can't even remember, how sad is that, what I did with the pump 11 months ago. But I do still take insulin, and it will depend on the class. I take Similan too, so I'll take, I'll eat. You don't want to eat a big meal before because then you can't move. You're doing these twists. I made something homemade once and I just had to eat it. And I got to class and I couldn't move. It's like, twist again. And I'm like, oh, I was so full. So I do better, like with one piece of toast with nut butter, or for a while I was eating sun butter, like a gluten-free granola bar. Taking my Similan, and then depending on the teacher or class, maybe 1 or 2 units. The continuous glucose meter I wear really helps me because I will check it often during class, and I always carry fruit strips and orange juice, and I will, depending on what the sugar is, eat them during class. Some studios will have you check your bag at the door. I let my teachers know, you're going to see this little machine, you're going to see me checking it, you may see me eating, so that they're aware of that. Does that help? Lanny?
That's what I was gonna ask too.
Oh.
So you don't find the CGM distracting then? I mean, I know you need the information, but does it stop you from getting as relaxed and into the yoga as you would like?
Well, when my CGM goes off, I guess it's, sometimes I get so relaxed, I will crash. So I guess it's helpful information. Sometimes I have felt, this is a really good question actually. I have felt self-conscious, especially at the end of yoga, there's something called Shavasana, final resting pose, and it's where you just lie on your mat and absorb the therapeutic benefits of the practice. And sometimes it goes off, and I have mine on vibrate, and and it does startle me out of my Shavasana, and I'm like, eek, everyone else is at their final super tranquil state, and there's, this annoying diabetic. But I have spoken with teachers about this very thing, and they assure me that, proper meditation practice, you need to be able to stay mindful despite distraction. And diabetes could be one of those things that's kind of distracting, for others. So yes, but I do need the data. And I have when I go high, if I ate a little too much or took less insulin, or just when diabetes is being as it is, why am I, going to 250? I have taken shots in class based on the data of this. So. Anyone else?
I have a question. You mentioned that you take Similan,
Yeah.
and I'm just wondering how that has improved your control, and if you were on Similan when you were on the pump too.
Sure. Great question. Gosh, I don't know how long it's been that I've been on Similan. Maybe 3 or 4 years. And my previous endocrinologist, I happened to find a video online, Dr. David Kendall. I don't know if you remember him from Park Nicollet, the best. Didn't you love him?
I'm having coffee with him tomorrow.
Oh, well, tell him I say hi. Okay. When I've gotten into yoga, he'll be so pleased.
Oh, good. I'll tell him. I'll pass on the message.
Okay. So yeah, he was the one giving the video, so I was like, oh, it's Dr. Kendall, what does he have to say? The endos had never told me about it, loved it. I have hypothyroidism too, so I'm not saying I'm big in any sense, I'm just average, but I was always a very thin person prior to hypothyroidism, but my whole life I've been starving, hungry all the time, and I didn't struggle with my weight, but just uncontrollable hunger. I mean, I can't, even throughout my 20s and into my 30s, I would eat a full meal and be hungry. So when I learned about Similan, well, I think each of us are so very different in that I don't produce enough of the hormone amylin. Because I don't know if you guys remember, or when you went to TCOYD, the endocrinologist said, he had that picture of the lizard, and he goes, there's going to be something available that's out of lizard spit. And I was like, oh, what is that? Well, that's what Similan is, and now it's a synthetic version, but it was originally from the lizard spit. So I love Simlin. Now most people start at 15 and then they go.
Can you explain what it is?
Yes, thank you. So sure, what Simlin is, you know, there's, and I'm not a doctor, so if any of this isn't quite right, this is my layperson understanding. The pancreas produces many hormones, and then I think some of you might have seen that article recently that Endo wrote, like, living with type 1, we're trying to deal with diabetes, like, injecting insulin, and it's like, no wonder why this is so incredibly hard. So amylin is the hormone that is made that helps when we eat and the blood sugars fly up. It's amylin that slows the food from moving through when you digest, and then it helps keep the blood sugars more stable. So if you had amylin, you know, your blood sugars don't fly up, they stay more stable. Because your food is going through at the right level, you feel satiated, you feel full. So by taking Simlin, it helps slow down that process so your blood sugars don't fly high and you stay full. So when I went on it, I didn't fly high, and I'm like not like super 16-year-old boy hungry all the time. So.
Simlin is insulin?
No, it's Simlin. It's artificial amylin, which is a secondary hormone that's produced when insulin is produced. It's like a sister hormone.
But it's an injection, it's an additional
Oh,
injection.
It's a second hormone that you can take.
So it's just, yeah, you can't mix it with another insulin. It's its own separate thing, and they have it in pen form. So I know for me though, I tried it and like I have acid reflux issues.
Yeah.
And so like it was an issue for me and I went off of it. So like I thought, you know, I heard some good things about it,
Is
tried
it
it.
something new or?
No, it's been around for about 10 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
So,
It was made by a company called Amylin,
yeah.
and then my company bought Amylin, Bristol Myers Squibb, and then my company sold our diabetes products to AstraZeneca a few months ago.
I mean, one of the things that I don't know if has been said is that I don't know if everybody who has type 1, but most people who have type 1 also don't make amylin.
Yeah.
So that's the important thing that hasn't been said.
And since we don't produce insulin, we also don't produce amylin, which is why when so many people have this similar issue that Cynthia has, where you do get hungry really soon after you've just eaten. And also, most of us probably have noticed those postprandial spikes, no matter how early we take you have to take your insulin like an hour early in order for it to get any kind of, effect. It really does help to kind of slow down the rate of absorption in your intestines of the glucose that's being digested. And then you're able to kind of slow down the food so that the insulin has a chance to work, because our insulin is a million times too slow.
So you inject it.
Yeah.
And then,
You only take it at meal times, because you only need it with.
so do you inject it with your insulin or what?
Yeah. So it's a separate injection as my
So
insulin.
it's two separate?
Yeah. And I only titrate it up to 30. Many patients are 60, so know that too. Like if you're like, it doesn't work for me, like I would go so low, with 45 or 60. So we're all different that way too. And it does lower me. If I'm like a resistant high in the 200s and keep taking insulin won't go down, I can take my Simlin. It is the only thing that breaks that high, which some people say that's not possible, but we're all just so different. So.
Yeah, a lot of people do notice that they are able to get away with taking less insulin at the meal time because the absorption is so much slower. So there's a lot of variation between people with diabetes who are on Simlin and insulin, just the way that it acts in the body. Same like just how insulin is so different in all of us, Simlin is also going to be pretty different in all of us.
Is there a lot of people in here that are on it?
No.
I've used it before.
I've used it too, and my uncle actually worked for Amylin, which is why I know a lot about it, because he's told me a lot about it. I know a lot of, I have a lot of random tidbits of diabetes that I know a lot about. So, yeah, I mean, it's not, I think it's common. I think they had some trouble selling it. I think they had some trouble getting people with type 1 to take an additional injection. So I think there's been some, it's not really, unlike insulin, a necessary drug. Like, it's nice, but, you can not take it and live, obviously.
How did you hear about it? Did your doctor doctor bring it up? Did
Yes,
you
my
research it? or-
endo never did. Somehow online, I don't know what I was looking at, and there was my previous endo, Dr. Kendall, like, this is, Symbolin, and I was like, any other endo, I would not have cared, but I'm like, oh, I miss him, what does he have to say? And then I was like, sold, like, right then and there, like, gosh, I'm hungry all the time, and I would, that's how I would look after eating, and with Symbolin, you can be more like this, like, okay, on good days, you know how diabetes is.